Students, today we are going to study the last topics of the chapter Fiber to Fabric. Let's begin with our topic. So let's begin with our first topic, that is sericulture. What is sericulture? Sericulture is the process of cultivating silkworms and extracting silk from them. It is the process in which the cultivation of the silkworm is done and the extraction of silk is taken from them. The caterpillars of the domestic silk moth, that is Bombyx morai, are the most commonly used silkworm species in sericulture. We have also studied in the earlier topics. The other types of silkworms such as eri, mogai and tusser are also cultivated for the production of wild silk. For the production of wild silk, the silks named as wild silks are extracted from the silkworms like eri, moga and tusser. Sericulture is a very important domestic industry in many countries. In many parts of the world, it is a very important type of domestic industry. India and China are the world's leading producers of milk. You have to remember that India and China are the countries who have the largest producers of silk. Where China is the first largest country and the India is the second largest country in the production of silk. The silk output of these two countries combined accounts for over 60% of the global production. So, with the combination of these two countries, that is India and China, both combinedly accounts for over 60%, above 60% of the global production of the silk industry. Students, next slide is about the production of silk. So, how the production of silk takes place? There are several points we will discuss about it. The female silk moth lays circa 300 to 500 eggs on a mulberry tree. There is a tree named as mulberry. The female silk moth lays eggs around 300 to 500 eggs on this tree. Larvae, the caterpillars hatch out of the eggs. The larvae from the caterpillars hatch out from the eggs. They are called as silkworms. We have read it earlier also in the life cycle of a silk moth. The silk moths feed on mulberry leaves. They have the food of the mulberry leaves. As the silkworms grow bigger, they need to molt several times. As soon as the silkworms start getting growth, they need to molt several times. After having gone through its fourth mold, after done with the fourth mold, the silkworm is ready to transform into a moth. That is the adult moth. It climbs to a twig. Uh, it climbs to a twig and starts extruding a silk fiber to spin a net. A net is formed after extruding and after climbing a twig. Next is 6 point. While the net is holding the silkworm, the animal swings repeatedly from side to side in a figure 8 pattern. The figure 8 pattern means the fourth in the lengthwise and fourth in the crosswise. While doing this, it is distributing fibroin protein and a gums called sericin protein from its two salivary glands. We have read it also earlier also that there are two types of protein, that is fibroin and sericin, that is distributed from its two salivary glands. The silk solidifies when it comes into contact with the air. The silk becomes solid when it comes into the contact of the air. The silkworm gradually encloses itself in a cocoon. When the cocoon is formed, the silkworm gradually encloses itself into it. Making a complete cocoon typically takes 2 to 3 days. In the making of cocoon, the time takes place is 2 to 3 days. We will continue with the topic. The intact cocoon is harvested. The harvesting takes place then, and with the silkworm still inside, the silkworm is already present there. 3 cocoons are boiled, killing the silkworm. From all the cocoons, only 3 cocoons are then boiled, killing the silkworm, and the silkworm is killed. The hot water also removes the sericin. The sericin is a protein that is removed while boiling. The cocoon is brushed to locate the outer end of the filament. The cocoon is the brushing takes place to locate the outer end of the filament, that is thread. The filament is wound on a reel. The The filament is then wound on a reel. At this point, the product is called raw silk. At this point of time, the cocoon is called the raw silk. It takes roughly 2500 cocoons to produce a pound of raw silk. 2500 cocoons are involved in this procedure. A silk thread is comprised of several filaments. Several filaments are included in this silk thread, and several threads can be plied to form a yarn. Yarns mean kucha. Typically, one thread will consist of between 5 and 8 filaments. You have to remember this. How many the threads are included in the filaments? 5 and 8 filaments are included in it. Students, this is the diagram to show the production of silk so that you can easily learn the production of silk. So, you can clearly see the first is moth lay eggs. Eggs hatch giving silkworms or larvae. Silkworms eat mulberry leaves and grow in size. During this phase, they shed their skins 4 times. Shedding of skin is called molting. You already know this. Fourth stage, silkworms begin spinning their cocoons. And the fifth is silk farmers collect cocoons. Filaments are obtained from cocoons by the process called reeling or filature. Silk fibers are then spun into silk threads. So students, we have come to the last topic of the chapter, that is health problems associated with sericulture. On placing cocoons in boiling water, pupae lying inside the cocoons are killed. When we boil the cocoons, the pupae lying inside the cocoons are killed. The inhalation of vapor may cause respiratory problems to the human beings, to the animals like asthma, bronchitis, etc. It may cause several types of serious diseases. Workers transferring cocoons from hot water to cold water, while transferring the cocoons from hot water to cold water, that results in blisters skin and may cause the peeling of skin of the hands of the feet and the feet. So from this, your chapter is completed.